Hey guys, so Vox just put out a video a few days ago called "Want to Save Animal Lives Without Going Veg? Eat Beef, Not Chicken." It's mostly, I guess, starring Matt Ball. Some of you may know Matt Ball. I believe he co-founded Vegan Outreach. I may be wrong about that. I've talked about him a bit on this channel. I've shared his blog, but I definitely have some problems, I guess, with this video. I talked about it a little bit on Patreon. Somebody asked me about it, and I just gave a short little answer, and then I thought about it and was like, I guess I have more to say, so I might as well make a video. So to start with, I want to touch on the whole vegans are mean and militant kind of thing. At the start of the video, Matt says that, vegans are viewed as fanatics, and rightly so.
We just have this reputation, rightly so, because of how many of us act, of just being just absolute fanatics.
If you're familiar with my channel, you know that I talk a lot about fanaticism and militant vegans and dogmatism and all this kind of stuff, and how I don't think the majority of the time that it's good for veganism, particularly when we have like vegan YouTubers who are preaching to thousands of people. But that doesn't mean that all vegans are like this, and it doesn't mean that people having this view of us is correct, right? I think we can understand that many non-vegans view vegans as militant, and then this is a bad thing. It's bad for vegans, it's bad for the animals, obviously, because it can lead people to, unfortunately, think that, going vegan is going to make them an asshole, so they're not going to go vegan. I mean, a lot of people actually say that. It's very interesting. Point is, there's a difference between understanding this kind of almost human nature, I guess, to generalize, and condoning that generalization, right? Condoning that behavior of generalizing an entire group of people as, oh, you're all militant, all vegans are militant. And that kind of sounds like what Matt is doing, again, saying rightly so, that it's right for people to view vegans as militants. No, I don't think so. I think it's rather irrational that people do that. We can't pretend that people don't view us that way, and I think we should do what we can to ameliorate that, to be as non-militant as possible, I guess, right? And to be, good examples for veganism, and just to be just nice human beings anyway, which you should probably just do even if you're not advocating for veganism. Just kind of be nice and listen to people and try to have conversations, right? But again, that doesn't mean I'm condoning generalizing, and that doesn't mean that I agree that vegans are fanatics. I think, as I've said before, I think it's just a vocal minority, which is something that pretty much any community, any advocacy group has to deal with. The next thing, Matt, I think this is at the end of the video, where he talks about the vegan movement basically being a failure.
Now, this is after decades of advocacy. Peter Singer's book, Animal Liberation, came out in the 1970s. PETA came around in 1980. So groups and advocates have been at this for decades. And yet the percentage of people in the United States who are vegetarian has basically not changed at all. We know, just by looking at the graphs, just by looking at the numbers, that we have been failures at this so far.
I definitely disagree with this. For one reason, there's really a lack of surveys as far as like who's vegan and how many people are vegan today or vegetarian. Also, we've had misuse of definitions for years, really probably until recently, people saying they're vegetarian when they ate chicken, right? And then even recently, people saying they're vegetarian when they eat fish. So it's just been really confusing until probably recently, when more people really know what vegetarian is and what vegan is. And then the other one, the really big one, is that it's only been easier to eat vegan probably for the past like 5 to 10 years. I mean, if you look at being vegan in the 80s or in the 90s versus now, it's completely different. I mean, you couldn't find tofu at like just a regular grocery store, just at like a Kroger in Memphis, Tennessee. You couldn't find tofu there. Yes, you could find beans and rice and stuff, but look, most people are not going to live on beans and rice. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Whereas today we have all of these mock meats that are available in regular grocery stores. And I know not everywhere. I know there are definitely exceptions. There are definitely places in the US, for instance, particularly if you're living in a more rural area, where it's going to be harder to find, a wide variety of particularly like mock meats and the vegan cheeses and whatnot. The point is, it's easier than ever for a lot of people, and you can find a lot of stuff in just regular grocery stores, not Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or anything like that. So I don't think it's fair. It's not like it's been like this since 1980 and people just are being really, really resistant to change. We're really only seeing huge, big changes like that right now. I mean, Ben & Jerry's non-dairy ice cream, that happened like a year ago. It's basically just happening now. Hampton Creek and Just Mayo, that's like brand new. I mean, you cannot compare that mayonnaise to like, what is it, Vegenaise or whatever. I'm sorry, those suck compared to Just Mayo. Just Mayo is legit mayonnaise. Beyond Meat, obviously, and then Tyson Chicken investing in Beyond Meat, that is huge. Chains like Veggie Girl, which is awesome. If you can make your way to a Veggie Girl, you should. They're really delicious. And they are just expanding. And this is like brand new. So I don't really think it's fair when all of the huge, really important changes are like just happening. So now onto the message itself, not the title of the video, that's a little bit different. I'll get to that in a minute. But the actual message, Matt's message, which is to cut out chicken. I don't have a problem with the message itself. I think it's fine. I've promoted it before. I've shared articles about it, but I do worry about promoting it exclusively. The more specific you make your message, the riskier it is. I think limiting ourselves to one very specific message, like give up chicken, particularly when we're not even sure that ultimately it's actually effective, which I'll get to in a minute, I just think that's so risky. I think it's better to have a range of messages and to appreciate context. For someone who's like, I want to reduce my consumption of animals, but I just love steak, I cannot give up beef, but you know what, I don't care so much about chicken and I can do that. That's a great time to promote a like, hey, give up chicken message, right? Or like someone who's like, I don't know, I really hate ice cream. That person doesn't exist. Not everything is black and white, I guess is what I'm saying. You know, there are the extremes that we can say, yeah, that's very likely not effective and is actually probably harmful. Like the direct action everywhere, some of the stuff they do, like where they go into restaurants and like interrupt people just having a night out, and like raw till 4, right? Just these really insane, unsustainable, terrible diets, raw till 4 and fully raw, stuff like that. But there's a lot of other stuff where it's just not that clear, and it's going to depend on the context. The point is, I don't think we should limit ourselves to a very, very specific message that we aren't even sure that it's effective or better than other messages. Okay, so now onto the title briefly, and then I'll get into the message a bit more and some more, I guess, issues that I have with it. Just why it's more complex, I think, than Matt believes it to be. The title again is Eat Beef, Not Chicken. So Matt actually does address this on his blog. If you actually watch and pay attention to the video, I never say anyone should actually eat beef. Also note that the few minutes I actually speak was drawn from a 1-hour wide-ranging interview. At first, I was disappointed with the headline Vox put on the interview. However, given that the video has been trending on YouTube all weekend and is closing in on 1 million views, I have to admit that Vox knew what they were doing in terms of capturing eyeballs. Clearly, there is a hunger among people to do something to help animals that seems to them achievable and sustainable. To me, the most important goal is that we find the message that reaches and inspires new people rather than what gets us more likes on our Facebook feed. Given that this year the average American will eat more animals and cause more suffering than ever before, I'll take 1 million new people learning about how to help animals over being lionized by the vegan police every day. So I have 2 problems with what Matt says here, and I guess I'll start with the ending there, the lionized by the vegan police every day bit, which it's disappointing. It's disappointing because he's basically shrugging off the criticism. He's basically painting all critics as dogmatic vegans, and it's just like, oh, well, it doesn't matter, it's bullshit. But that's bullshit. What he's doing is bullshit, because if you actually go to the video and you read the comments, it's from a lot of non-vegans. You know, a lot of the criticism is coming from just everyone, not just vegans. So I think that's really unfair. And then the other issue is he seems to just be saying, well, it's getting a lot of views, so it must be effective and Vox must know what they're doing. But the problem is, Vox probably cares more about Vox than about the actual message, right? I think it's fair to assume that Vox is just trying to get as many eyeballs on the video as possible, as he says. But just because there are a lot of views, it doesn't mean that it's effective. We don't know. We don't know how many people are being positively influenced by this video. And if the number of downvotes and the negative comments are anything to go by, it seems like this video is receiving more negative attention than positive attention. I don't know why Matt is choosing to shrug that off. I think that's an issue. We can't just assume that just because a video is getting tons of views that it's positive. The best example, the one I bring up the most often, is that Freely video where she says, you know, the meat eaters should die, or whatever it is, that bullshit video that got tons and tons of views, tons and tons of responses and reactions from YouTubers, universally hated, universally negative from non-vegans and vegans, but it did get a lot of views. So do we think that's really positive? That's really a good thing for animal welfare, for the animals? It just sounds like Freely logic to me. It sounds like Freely and PETA logic to me, that the more exposure, the better for the animals. And I think it's really dangerous to assume that. We just don't have the evidence to back that up. We should be worried when we see a response like this, when we see this many downvotes. I think we should be concerned. And we certainly shouldn't just shrug this off as vegan police. You know, it makes sense that people are downvoting this so hard based on the title Eat Beef, Not Chicken, because it sounds like Matt doesn't care about global warming, because look, cows are worse for the environment. People know this, that cows are worse for the environment than chicken. And it also sounds like you don't care about human health. Again, we know that beef is worse for people, particularly processed beef is worse for people than chicken. So it sounds like Matt doesn't care about people. He's not interested in climate change. He's not interested in human health. He only cares about animal welfare. And that's not a terribly appealing message to the average person. To be clear, I am not at all saying that Matt doesn't care. I'm just saying that I can understand how it could come across that way. The fact that Matt doesn't actually support replacing chicken with beef, it doesn't matter. It's completely understandable that this is what people took from the video. It's in the title, Eat Beef, Not Chicken. And, you know, the fact that, look, Matt doesn't actually counter that in the video. Nowhere in the video does he say, look, I'm not saying, you know, replace chicken with beef, to eat beef and not chicken. He might have said that, again, apparently it was an hour-long interview. So there's a good chance he said that and they didn't include it. I'm not saying that's his fault, but it is a huge problem with the video.
No matter what they eat instead, if they cut out eating chickens, they will remove the vast majority of their support for factory farms.
And what he does do in the video, he does make a comparison between chicken and cow, and it does seem to endorse the title. And so now I want to get into the actual comparison of chicken and cow and whether or not it is actually better to consume cow instead of chicken. So the comparison, I think, it's much more complex than how Matt describes it.
The average American diet causes about 25 land animals to be factory farmed and slaughtered every year. If people just stopped eating chickens, they will spare 23 of those animals. This is because it takes over 200 chickens to provide the same number of meals as one steer, or over 40 chickens to provide the same number of meals as one pig.
Cows eat much more, so chickens have a better feed conversion ratio. When we look at this 1 million calories, the number of animals killed to produce 1 million calories, we see 1 million calories of beef equals 29 deaths, 1 million calories of chicken equals 251.1 deaths. So that's not even 10 times the number of deaths, so significantly less than the number that Matt cited. Another issue is sentience. Matt seems to be equating like one chicken with one cow or one chicken with one pig, and it's not really clear that we can do that. I mean, we know there are degrees of sentience. I mean, we know there's obviously a difference between like a cow and a cockroach, right? But what is the difference between a cow and a chicken? I don't really know. We know cows and pigs are smarter than chickens, but we also have to look at, again, the animals that are killed in cow production, you know, the birds and the mice and other little critters that are killed. You know, how do we compare those to chickens? Can we equate those? Can we equate a field mouse and a chicken? Can we equate a songbird and a chicken? And what about quality of life? I mean, obviously there's a difference there. You know, let's say like a songbird that's free its whole life and then is stomped to death by a cow versus a chicken that's lived in a barn its whole life in basically constant misery. Again, how do we compare these things? I don't really know. And then finally, global warming, I already mentioned, you know, chickens, they definitely do contribute, but due to, again, higher feed conversion ratio and, less burping, less farting, they are better than cows. That is something that we need to consider because obviously climate change affects everyone, all sentient beings. We also just don't know how receptive people are to give up chicken. You know, the limited evidence that we have, it certainly suggests that a vegetarian or reducitarian message, reduce meat or animal product consumption, that these are generally better received, but that doesn't guarantee that a more specific message that, give up chickens, that message will also be well received. Certainly we can imagine someone who loves chicken, as I mentioned earlier, having a hard time with this message and being more resistant to it. And we can also imagine someone who is health conscious and has made an effort to reduce beef consumption in favor of chicken, being resistant to it. Again, I like the message. I like it as part of an animal advocacy toolkit, I guess, as like a range of different things that you can say and different ways that you can encourage people to reduce animal suffering. It shows that we can say something other than just go vegan, and vegan is cheap and easy, eat rice and beans. Point is, I don't think it's as clear cut as Matt maybe would like it to be, and it's just way too complex. And I think this is why it is so risky to put all of our eggs into one basket, so to speak, and to focus on such a very narrow, simplistic message. And if we are going to focus on a message like that, really make that the focus of our advocacy, maybe qualify it a little bit, maybe give up chicken and, replace it with plants, right? Give up chicken, replace it with plants. Preferably protein-rich plants. So maybe that would be an important little extra qualification. I don't know, but that seems like maybe a good middle ground that would get rid of some of the confusion and definitely be positive, right? I mean, we know that replacing chicken with tofu is better for the environment and obviously better for the chickens. And for us too, because tofu is way healthier than chicken. So that's it. Thank you everybody for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Of course, any comments or questions, leave them down below. And if you want to subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. And of course, thank you to all current patrons. It's super, super awesome. All 200 and something of you, 220 something. I don't know. It's incredible. That's so many people. If you imagine that many people like in a room, that's kind of ridiculous. I don't know. It's really cool. Thank you so much. An extra special thank you to these patrons: Alec Larson, Ali Perception Trainers, H.S. Ross, Isidro, James Baker, and Jody Lucas. Again, thank you to everybody for watching, supporting, all that stuff. And I should have a new video very soon, hopefully up in the next couple days. Which I just jinxed it, which means you're not going to get a video for like 2 weeks. Sorry.